Hello, viewers. Welcome to another beautiful episode of the Nana Yaw podcast. I am grateful to be here today with you guys with an amazing human being, Nana Yaw Osei-Darkwa, who is the founder of Republic in Ghana. And so today's conversation really is going to be on activism in action, climate change, politics, and the Green Republic, and where we go from here. He's also an entrepreneur, an environmental advocate, as I said earlier. From grassroots organizing to global conversations on sustainability, he's using action, not just words, to reshape our environmental future. So please help me welcome Nana Yaw Osei-Darkwa to the Nana Yaw podcast.
Thank
Nana
you
Yaw,
so very
welcome.
much. Yeah, it's an NY thing. Thank you so very
It's
much for having me. I really appreciate it.
And I also do appreciate you saying thank you and coming onto the podcast. I know you're very busy, but you made time and you always make time for me and my shenanigans. So thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
and it's a great pleasure to be on your show. I've been following. I know the great work you've been doing for humankind, and it's always a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. You are very much appreciated. So in this particular episode, I have a few, questions to ask you about the things you do in environmental activism and climate change, etc. But before we get there, there is a beginning story and also something that motivated you or geared you towards where you are right now, the path that you are on. So if you don't mind, and we could start with your beginning story, where you from, where you grew up, and what are some of the things that transpired in your life that actually pushed you towards this path in your life.
Okay, thank you. So, as you rightly said, my name is Nana Yaw Osei-Darkwa. I come from the eastern region of Ghana. I'm half Ashanti, half Achim. So Asante Achim, if you so wish, and I come from the eastern region, Chebi to be precise, and born, bred, schooled, and groomed in Accra, the capital. Um, Schooled in Accra, from my childhood up to the sixth form level, where I had my sixth form education at Keta Secondary School in the Volta region. Had my O level at Nungwa Secondary School in Greater Accra, and then had my tertiary education at the Ghana Institute of Journalism. Where I really, had different perspectives to life. It's an amazing institution, amazing school. Where people are trained, to think outside the box. To think on top of your feet. As a communications person. So I was fortunate to be a part of the very first group of communication studies students of the then Ghana Institute of Journalism, now Communications University. And that's how it all began. And after school, I decided to go on my own. The general norm is for you to go out there, write applications, and try to look out for a job. But right from my secondary school ages, there was something that burned in my belly, wanting to contribute to the general well-being of humanity. And it's strange though,
Yes.
because naturally you would want to work, you make money, and you know,
Mm-hmm.
my life has been a kind of the opposite of that. Rather, I
Mm-hmm.
decided to, get out there and begin to help deal with some of the challenges that confront our society collectively. So I found myself, leading a group of young people. Then we were called Youth Icons Ghana. That was in 2008. You know very
Yes.
much about Youth Icons Ghana, because
Yes, I almost forgot
I met
about youth icons. Yes, that is true.
absolutely, so. Youth Icon Ghana started it. We paid our dues to our country, Ghana, and also to the world in general through the promotion of a culture of peace and nonviolence. And after 10 years of doing that work, where we're promoting human to human, peace activations, 10 years down the line in 2018, there was a certain call to action where, we could see a certain fight, a certain, subtle war that was rearing its ugly head between humanity and nature, where due to the years and decades of conflict between human and nature, nature was visiting humanity with some very, harsh conditions, including, the effects of climate change. We're having more things happening to humanity that were not really, really pleasant. A lot of wildfires, we're having lots of flooding, across the world, the little rain, the floods everywhere. Yeah, so we human to human peace connections. We needed to now turn our focus to humanity and nature, where we try to reconcile humanity with nature through restoration. So that's what gave birth to the Green Republic Project. So the Green Republic Project basically is like a reconciliation effort that we are driving to ensure that nature and humanity lives and exists peacefully, so that we will be friends and not enemies to ourselves. So that's what gave birth to the Green Republic Project. And if I'm to expand, we're saying that we want to reconcile humanity with nature, but we can only do that through restoration. So what I mean by that is this: humans, have destroyed a lot of the, things within the ecosystem. And so, for instance, you take our green fields, our forests, our water bodies, even uh, biodiversity, the very things that surround us. We've really done away with a lot of things through our actions and inactions. And so, for instance, in our country, Ghana, you have our forest belts depleting at a very, very, fast pace, exposing the country to different forms of natural consequences. And so, for instance, if you are cutting down the trees and you're not replanting, what you are doing is that you are denying, yourself, or for instance, good air to breathe, because in the wisdom of God, these trees were created, to absorb carbons and then produce oxygen, which is good for us, to survive. And so, for instance, when you take like Canada, where you are, and the United States, for instance, uh, you walk around in areas like Maryland and Washington and all that. You see a lot of trees and greens all over. But we in the tropics, who are gifted with that kind of environment where these trees can even do far more better, we have turned our vent on the environment, destroying these beautiful trees that also serve as home
So,
for biodiversity.
on that note, you make mention of North America here, comparing here and in, say, Ghana. How well do you think that the traditional or the cultural knowledges of forestry or natural forest boundaries that were created have been abused? Because if I quite remember clearly, there were certain areas within thickets of forest that you were not supposed to go. You only go there to take what you need. So I want you to expand on it. How, say, present educational systems or, say, forestry or greed or whatnot have impacted these cultural safety norms that used to take care of the forest belt for us, because the forest took care of us as much as we respected it.
Great. That's a very, very, very good, question. Yes. So I would say when we're growing up back in school, in primary school, we're all taught photosynthesis, we're taught about the importance of trees, and then even within our cultural setting, farming was not done, like Monday to Sunday, like every day of the week. There were days that you could not farm. You could not go to the farm on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You could not even go to sea if you were a fisherman on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And in the minds of our great grandparents, even though they were not educated in terms of Western education and getting all the education that we get today, they managed our environment way, 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 way better than we who claim to be educated are doing. And in their minds, because they were not farming on Tuesdays and Thursdays, the simple knowledge there is that they wanted the earth to rest. Because you can't be, tilling and digging the earth throughout. You needed to let it, rest, rejuvenate itself, and then move on. For instance, when you get to aquaculture or fishing, they were also not going to sea on Tuesdays and Thursdays because the fishes procreate. So there was some innate wisdom in the decisions they took. In fact, some of the forests were declared no-go areas, and they will tell you through myths. They said this is a taboo. You don't go to the forest on this day because if you go to the forest, you're going to meet some spirits that you wouldn't want to meet. They scared you out of that. But today, in the face of education, we have become overly enlightened, that people don't really want to respect those taboos, those things that were told that will happen to you when you go into the forest on days that you're not supposed to go to. And then on the other side, greed, the insatiable needs of man, is also driving this, because we need these trees as human beings to survive. And so if for anything at all, we also need these trees for our everyday use, in time. Mention the many things that these, trees are used for. There should be a natural consequence where when we log, we need to replant so that which have been logged will be replaced. But because of greed, people go in there, cut down the trees, they do not see to the replanting of it. And unlike the West or North America, where there are rules, strict rules, where people cannot just cut down trees. On the flip side, we have a very free environment where people, do not respect the laws, people do things, and there are no immediate consequences, such that people can cut trees without even permits from anybody.
But
Except from even the forest. People still go in there without permits, on the blind side of the law enforcement agencies and the people responsible for the forest, and cut down trees, without, any thing holding them back.
impunity. As you're speaking, I'm listening to a lot of issues, behavioral, attitudinal issues, and respect for the land. And when I delve into it, at least the little that I can see or the little that I know is that there needs to be a lot of training, and persons like yourself, with the amount of work that you do, and also incorporating indigenous learning systems or that we have kind of ignored in the form of being Western education, having Western education, ignore the indigenous systems of learning and processes. Amongst that is also that whether our social structures, in the sense that the ministries, etc., are being led by individuals who have a value system of understanding really the necessity of this, or being driven by the value system of greed. So, which means your work is a lot. Your work is a lot. And I think for the most part, if you're doing your work and we are concentrating on the older people. I think many of them will be more of a lost cause. But if we're looking at the younger ones coming through school, say to grade 6 or GSS, SS, we may catch them for them to grow up with some of these values that will be beneficial for all of us in the next 10 years, 2 decades, or 3 decades ongoing. Now, you.
Absolutely, absolutely. In, th- in fact, the Green Republic Project have taken steps, to try to address, some of these, issues remotely. And so, if you look at a project that we have like Engaging the Future, it's a program that we hold on Wednesdays, in Ghana, in the primary schools and the middle school and the high schools. Wednesdays are days that the students meet, for worship, for social stuff. And so what we have done is to be able to engage with some of these schools, and then on Wednesdays we go and speak to them about the need for us as a people to keep our environments clean, the need for us to plant more trees, not just to plant, but care for these trees, to teach the little ones the critical importance of trees to our overall existence as a human race, and also not just talk to them, but also engage them in tree planting activities together so that they would also kind of have the feel of planting trees. Because we did some basic, research and found out that most young people, in Ghana, that's what we did in Ghana. Most young people have never planted a tree in their lives. And I mean, nothing will provoke them to plant trees because it's not part of the conversation. And so what we did was to introduce this to the schools. And then we had tree planting projects, for instance, in the northern region of Ghana. I remember in 2018, when we started the fight to bring humanity and nature together as reconciliators, we had a tree planting project in a village called Young Dakemieli in the northern region, where we plant trees. And this project was done with high school students. We went to the school, engaged the authorities, we spoke to them about climate change and global warming and the need for us, to take steps. And for us at the Green Republic, we're thinking that trees remain extremely crucial to the fight because, that is a natural solution to the climate crisis. Because basically what happens is that, because greenhouse gases are, emitted into the atmosphere, the destruction of the ozone layer, if we are able to reduce, these things, then provide more trees to take in those carbons that will be freeing the earth, and giving enough, fresh air for us all to breathe and to survive. So we do this, and then we give them the opportunity to also plant trees when we realize that many of them, have never on their own planted a tree in their lives, which is very, very, very dangerous. So we did that. And then on the back of that, we also went a step further to engage the national, authorities. You made mention of ministers of state and all that. I mean, we engaged the sector minister, for environment, the forest, and all that, and pushed a certain agenda of Ghana having a national tree planting day. And I had the privilege of meeting the former president and having discussion country to have a national tree planting day where from the president to the traditional rulers to parliament to the ministries, every facet of national life, we're all going to come out that day to plant trees as a way of securing the future, for generations unborn, because we came to meet a more greener environment where we're growing up. There were trees all over the place. We had a certain relationship with nature, played in the bushes. But today, the young ones, our children, and they've been reduced to indoor babies because there is nowhere to play. Even the playgrounds where we used to play football barefooted and all that, all these places are gone. They are now being used for real estate. Concrete jungles popping up everywhere. And so a National Tree Planting Day offers the country the opportunity, to give its citizens a certain opportunity to plant trees, to ensure that they take care of these trees, for them to grow to serve the purpose for which, they were grown. So if you, for for instance, go online and Google Green Ghana or National Tree Planting or Nana Yaw Osei-Darkwa. I mean, there are numerous interviews, radio, print, the television that we did, to kind of prompt the country about the urgent need for us to have that. And the former president bought into it. He thought it was a brilliant idea. And it was in the State of the Nation address in 2020, 2021. The president ensured that it took place. And as I speak to you, millions of trees, the first year, I think 5 million trees were planted, led by the state. Of course, we, the Green Republic Project proponents of that concept, were so excited that the state saw wisdom in what we're doing and expanded it to cover every country. As I speak to you, the current president of Ghana, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, I know he's also launched, something that we call Trees for Life and the Blue Oceans thing, which is also fantastic. Following up on what was started, Trees for Life is also going to plant trees across the country. So it's a call, activism that we began that has seen the light of day, and I'm happy that it did not take 50 years, 100 years for it to kind of be accepted. But in my days, I have lived, to see a dream, a vision that we pursued, coming to life. And it gives me so much joy. And myself and my team, we're so elated and grateful that sooner than later, what we were shouting on top of the roofs about how we're depleting our forests, how we were degrading our environments, has been given, some shot, for us to be able to correct them. And so we are in good times. We're hoping that the political class will not only see this as one of the tools, to score political points, but something that is really needed, to be able to move on. I mean, in other jurisdictions, you go to places and elephants are walking home, lions are, walking home because their place of abode, the forest, has been depleted, and so they do not have a house anymore. So they wander about and get into town, and if you take the Horn of Africa region, for instance, there's been droughts for so many years. And so you have mass, death of animals and human. It's really, really bizarre. And so we really need to take this project seriously. And my wish is that every African state and even the West can take it up to really, 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 enforce this National Tree Planting Days so that we can secure our world for the next generation.
For sure, for sure. As you were speaking, you mentioned, the trees absorbing the carbon, recycling it, and then we get oxygen out of it. But I'm going to throw this question out there. Do you believe Africa should be paying a higher percentage in carbon tax, looking at the world pollution, etc., etc.?
Yeah, I mean, we really do not have to, because Africa generally contributes just about 4%, of whatever emissions, go into the atmosphere. But you see, I think that it's a collective thing, and we sit in a region where we're so fortunate. Our environment, the tropics, give us an opportunity over this, but we have shot ourselves in the foot by also depleting our forest. We really depleting our forest at a faster rate, and we also have opportunities to jump on stuff like solar and other inventions that is helping us not to go back to the usage of, for instance, coal and like thermal plants that use fossil fuels and all that. It's the fight has already begun. Climate change is no respecter of persons, and it has no borders. It moves freely, because collectively as humanity we have created these problems, and even though Africa might not have created much of the problem, we are also within the global space, and we together would have to find amicable ways of dealing with this challenge, because the more we argue, the more we do the blame game, the more the earth deteriorates, and we in Africa even feel the brunt of the climate crisis, because, for instance, our farming, our agriculture is under threat because we are not very big on irrigation, farming and mechanized
Mm-hmm.
farming. We still far away from what real mechanized farming is because of peculiar challenges of finance and all that. And so we would have to, quickly find a way of transiting and engaging some of these ways of doing things. Today,
Mm-hmm.
rainfall patterns in Ghana, for instance, have changed. You're expecting the rains from May, June, July through
Yeah,
August, and the
rainy
rain comes
season.
as early as January when people are not ready to farm.
That's
And
Hamatan period.
sometimes exactly Hamatan is almost even gone. Sometimes you don't even have Hamatan, but these were things that were happening back in the day that gave a lot of excitement. I remember those days. Your skin becomes so white and you I mean it's
But
something that we live with, but currently all those things are you know we don't really get to see them anymore. It happens haphazardly. Once it happens another time, there's no harmattan. The rains don't come in at a time
so,
our farmers can plan with and farm. And
yeah.
so what will happen? Drought, our food sovereignty is threatened every now and then. For Ghana, for instance, we are a leader in the production of cocoa in the world, the second largest producer of
Mm-hmm.
cocoa. We put chocolate on the tables of the global community, but currently because of the effects of climate change and global warming, the production of cocoa is threatened because one, the forest belts, cocoa does well in the forest areas. The forest belts are gone. We also have this phenomenon of galamsey,
Galamsey,
which
yes.
it's illegal mining, people mining recklessly in the forest belt, destroying large tracts of forest, and doing that without any official licensing from the state, which has also become a very difficult battle that governments are fighting. Very, very, very difficult because now it's expanded to a situation where even foreign nationals from China, from our neighboring countries, are all in the forest, also taking a bite, raping the bellies of the earth for this gold. And once they do these irresponsible ways of mining, they're also polluting our water bodies, which is it's a major threat. And that is why, for instance, myself being an ecocide person, we are calling on government and other world leaders to give a critical thought to the ecocide law, which is being pushed to ensure that people get punished from destroying, certain levels of our natural ecosystem. Because for instance, the water bodies serve as a main source of drinking water for our people, and yet because of greed, people are going and mining in the bellies of the water body, the water beds. That's where they are mining, and they're using dangerous chemicals like cyanide and all that, which threatens, the existence of the people. Even the fishes in the rivers are all gone; they're dead because there's no life in there now. Our water bodies that used to be very crystal clear now look like coffee or
Like,
Milo with milk mixed together.
yeah. It's rather sad that I think our thinking is very short term, immediate, what I need, versus long term as to living healthy, living authentically, and being productive. Um, Also, even when it comes to the conversation of Galamsey, I say our the leadership in the villages are also part of the problem, because they could have said that no, because no land, say there's government land and then there is community land. They give the yes, the go ahead for them to get there. And also the common man or woman could have reported that this is ongoing, but then they are also waiting for other people to come and solve a problem that is right underneath their noses, that they can galvanize, come together, and create a movement too. So, as you're speaking, I'm hearing a lot of pieces of, say, education, teaching, support, etc., within that. I was watching on YouTube some the governmental agencies or the police and or the military going into these forests and trying to get them out. But what saddens me also is the level of, say, prostitution and child abuse that has also enveloped itself in this. That we're not only talking about only environmental crisis, but we are also talking about human trafficking crisis within these bushes. Young women, either from Ghana or from Niger or from Nigeria, being brought into these situations, which is really sad.
Yeah, yeah, it's a very very big challenge. Like I'm saying,
Mm-hmm.
fight. And if you follow, even government is struggling because government alone cannot do it. Like you said, we need the full cooperation of the citizenry to be able to do this. But see, it's a potpourri of challenges, because one, like you rightly said, government does not own land in Ghana. Lands are vested in our chiefs, and traditional leaders, they own the land. Even government goes to them when government need land for projects. But what has occasioned this whole Galamsey thing is just a shared desire, for people to make wealth without going through the process. Because we live in a country where, profiling is non-existent. I mean, usually people, somebody 2 3 days, the person becomes fabulously rich. Nobody knows how they made the money, and we don't talk about that, because how our system
Yes.
is framed. You come across as a jealous person, or somebody would even, try to get at you for sounding the alarm bells, and all that. And unemployment, we have a
Very bit
very
of, yeah.
serious unemployment, challenge in Ghana, just like many other African countries and even the West. And so young people who have the raw energies to work, they want to work, but there is no, work. And so they try to find ways and means to survive. And then this leads them into the forest to try to get some of the gold, because Ghana is really blessed with a lot of gold. And so it's a very dicey situation where the state needs to provide the jobs are not there, and so the young people are trying to do stuff on their own. But I think that government after government is putting in a lot of effort. What we all need to do is to encourage the young ones, and as you rightly said, women. Sometimes when you see women in the Galamsey pits and the kind of water that they're standing in, I can imagine the infections and the health implications of all these things that they expose themselves to. But at the end of the day, poverty is what drives, many of these people into the abyss of Galamsey. And that is why government after government is doing whatever they can. The chiefs have their hands tied, because even though the lands belong to them, they do not have control when it comes to mining of gold and all that. We have the National Minerals Commission, that licenses people to come to do mining. And so sometimes the chiefs are not even informed. It is the one who has been given a license to go mine in that forest who comes to them and say, oh, the state has appropriated this land to us for a mining, exploration. And so we came to say hello to you because you are the chief. You understand? So we need to empower the chiefs so that they become frontal players in the game, so that they can have that, responsibility of guarding their own
Yes.
territory. And as I speak, some of these chiefs are already doing this. I mean, the great king of Ashanti, has on many occasions pushed this agenda and has even destood some chiefs for their involvement in some of these activities. You have the great king of Achimebuakwa, Amotia Oforipein, who is, an avowed environmentalist, also doing a lot of work in this area, even though the chiefs have been kind of shortchanged, in the process. But it's now going beyond Ghana. It's become transnational, where you have all manner of people coming in, and it's even a threat to our peace and democracy that we've been practicing. Because when you go in there and you see the kind of sophisticated weapons these people are
I
using
was
to guard
coming to
themselves,
that.
they are able to even resist,
Yes.
and engage in shootouts with
Law
our
enforcement.
gallant men and
Yes.
women within the security forces. So it's a very difficult thing. I don't envy, the president and the government and the security agencies at all. The will is there. I do not think that any leader will come to power thinking that I want to destroy the ecosystem of my country. I really don't think any of our leaders would think that way. It is just that because of the unemployment situation and greed remains a major. I mean, most of these people who are in the Galamsey pits, they do not have the money to get all the big,
Equipment.
machines that they are using to the excavators and all that. So it's still a few rich, powerful people, sometimes some in high places of government, who are sponsoring these, young poor people to go in there and do these things on their behalf. So it's a very cagey situation, very, very complex. And we're all working together with other environmentally friendly organizations and civil society groups, pushing this agenda. And I think the civil society space of Ghana, they are doing a fantastic job. Just that it's a very big challenge, but together we shall overcome.
There's no problem without a solution. If we're not looking for it, you'll not find it. But
Absolutely.
as we're speaking about that and the job situation, I have I'm of the opinion of entrepreneurship. So let's look at the role of entrepreneurship, how the entrepreneurship play in driving climate solutions, and can green enterprise truly be sustainable and profitable. So let's go to these young men and women first in there engaged in these nefarious activities that are killing, literally children fall into these holes and die, or these they have
Yeah,
muddy landslides and die, or have all these health diseases and die. So let's go to that
yeah.
first, that changing the mindset into
Okay.
entrepreneurship. In your view, what are
Yeah,
some of the suggestions that may be able to help take them from these areas and places whereby they're causing so much commotion and death to areas whereby they can empower themselves to be problem solvers and do something way
yeah, great.
better?
I think that things, plans are underway, and governments have also done quite a bit in this space. I have to admit, for instance, they have this alternative livelihood program, that is trying to get young people who are engaged in galamsey to lay down their tools and then get into, you know, constructive engagements that would kind of make them live a decent life and at the same time fix the mess that has been created as a result of galamsey operations, for instance. And so they have, reclaiming of some of the lands that have been destroyed, where government is leading the project to plant palm trees, in some of these areas. And these are supposed to be done by young people who are engaged in galamsey, so that they can have at least some meaningful income, and not be, attracted to the galamsey pits. I mean, it's a bit deceitful, even though gold, is money. They get in there and it doesn't come that easy. Sometimes you dig and dig and dig and have no gold at the end of the day. Doing a lot of, energy sapping jobs and not getting nothing, or you working for somebody who is giving you peanuts for the kind of, exposure you're exposing yourself to in terms of the danger. So government is doing well in that space, trying to rally these young people and giving them alternative jobs. And by and large, in terms of the entrepreneurial space, I think that Ghanaian youth are really, really living up to the billing, the entrepreneurial space. I mean, today, if you visit Ghana or even in Canada and elsewhere, I'm sure you would see a lot of products coming from Ghana, like plantain
Yes.
chips, you have like granola or peanuts bagged very nicely. The packaging is world class. Different products, beads, uh, different stuff, coming from Ghana to the global community. And most of these, projects are led by young people. You have young people who are out there collecting plastic waste and turning them into something else,
Yes.
selling within the country and sometimes beyond our country. So by and large, we're seeing a Ghanaian youth base that is really, really aggressive, that is really, really trying to do stuff. And the advent of like mobile phones, for instance, has also helped a great deal. And with government coming up with the Ghana Post address system, the GPS system,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
Now there is an address to every structure in Ghana. Now you don't need anybody to direct you somewhere. Once you key in the address to wherever you're going, a taxi, an Uber, a Yango, Bolt, or whatever can take you. These were things that hitherto were not present in Ghana, but providing these things by the past administration, have really eased the ecosystem. And so you have more young people selling stuff even on their WhatsApp, pages. They showcase stuff that they can sell. People see them, say, okay, I need this. You can pay on your phone, Momo. And Ghana has done an amazing job. We have this mobile money interoperability where one network can send money to the other network, without any challenges. This Ghana was one of the very first, I think the first country in Africa to have this mobile money interoperability, which makes it easy for monies to be sent across different mobile networks. And so it's opened the space, and a lot of young people, are trying to do stuff with themselves. Ghanaian youth are very, very hungry for success, and they really want to do stuff with themselves. I think in the previous administration, they launched, a youth program where government was supporting young people who have creative ideas with funding to be able to expand, and also employ more people. The Youth Employment Agency, government after government is adding up to this, and they are venturing into different creative areas. And most of these programs are led by young people. In the private sector, you have young people doing amazing stuff like shoes, and some of these shoes have found their space onto the feet of presidents of the country to CEOs. And so generally you can see a certain direction of the youth wanting to do stuff with themselves. And by and large, I think that policy will drive a certain conversation, and we'll see dramatic change in the next 10, 20 years. For instance, the TVET program, technical vocational training stuff, it has a lot of young people going in there. And to my amazement, I mean, like a year or two ago, you could see a girls' school in Ghana come up with drones. They have manufactured drones. They are doing amazing things. For instance, a Ghanaian school coming to the US for a robotics competition and winning it back to back. Because we're giving our young people the opportunity now to explore certain things, this STEM education, churning out wonderful results. And I think that if government after government, we're going to focus on the young people and try to get them out of the streets, it will be an amazing thing. And that's why, I'll give thumbs up, to our former president, Nana Yaw. I always say this, that education is the bedrock. It's the only equalizer of opportunity. It's the opportunity. It's the only platform where the child of the poor and the rich can be in the same space, compete fairly, and proceed. So giving opportunity to every Ghanaian child of school-going age, for me, is what will trigger a certain trajectory going forward. Because finding yourself in the street and having a large chunk of our young people not getting access to education was a major challenge. Today, you have a child of a charcoal seller or a boy in a rural community where there is no electricity getting the opportunity to go to the A-list schools in Ghana, because even the posting system has been designed in such a way that 30% of enrollment has been reserved for children from very, very remote villages where they have no light, even all manner of serious challenges, but sitting and taking the same exam with children in the cities and all that. So this is a deliberate policy that has really caused change, and the results are there for all to see. And for me, this is a very transformational thinking, that president, Nana Yaw is going to be remembered for long after he's gone. I think that posterity will deal very, very kindly with him, because he's giving Ghana a certain lifeline. And I urge all governments that will come after him, to do their possible best to ensure that the free, senior high school policy in Ghana becomes, something that will stay forever. because that is the only opportunity we have as a people to be able to transit, our young people from the streets, find themselves in the classrooms, and then, nurture them to take different directions as they go in life. Always maintain that, for instance, if you even enter a barbering shop or you go to a salon, and find somebody who has spent a week in a classroom, as opposed to somebody who has not sat in the classroom for even an hour, once they begin dealing with you, you will find one of these two a bit refined towards you who has been educated. And so the role of education in polishing the minds of our young ones towards national growth and personal development, it's not something that we can toy with. And so let us all encourage our young people, through policy, to get out there, get themselves a little bit of education, not education to just speak English, but the vocational side, the technical side, science, these kind of areas. And I believe that we have a very great future if we'll be able to change things through policy. Policy is extremely important. Policy is everything. And so all the challenges that faces us, if our leaders working in close collaboration with civil society organizations can come out with policies that will naturally, ensure that as a country we're growing on a certain trajectory, so we can have a clear plan ahead of us and not just do one thing, this government comes, does another thing, another government comes, does another thing.
Continuity.
I'm pleading, with all successive governments, let's protect the free senior high school with our blood and ensure that our young people get the opportunity to school.
I think I'm just going to add a little to that in the sense that for those of us privileged to be in the West, my children didn't have to pay for going to high school. Yes. And my daughter right now, say, is in grade 11, going to grade 12. My son graduated, is in college right now. Yes, I pay for college
Wow.
education. But,
Congratulations.
oh, yeah. But it's one of the things that in North America has been done, and many people sometimes they drop out of school, irrespective of dropping out of school, are able to come back into the college or university system at any point in their lives, even when they're 65 or 70, to do a diploma or a degree, which is absolutely fine. So I think what I mean to say is that it is a great thing being done in Ghana, being children being given this opportunity. In years to come, we are the ones that are going to benefit the most. But the little thing, what really also got my attention, maybe about 3, 4 years, 4, 5 years ago, when it started, the free education started, is that these children, I don't know whether it was thought through thoroughly, the accommodations in the boarding houses were deplorable. And I will hope and wish that there will be more investment into these, because when the children have the space and have the resources to be able to study properly, at the end of the day, we churn out great leaders, great educators, great scientists, etc., etc. And then we get we get the profits of this later. So that's
Yes.
my thing that when I went to Holy Child and I saw, say, St. Maria's, I was a Maria's girl. I look at it and it's like, oh, no, 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 no. This was not the Maria's I left behind. And I wish that it could be, things could be expanded more. There could be more for these children, because as children of Mother Ghana, they deserve it. They truly
Great.
deserve it. So if I'm seeing it in one
I,
school, what about the other schools?
I would love to, it's an amazing call, and I think that is the thinking of, our governments. I think that, aside with our leader when he started this whole thing, Martin Luther King once said that the time is always right to do what is right. And for me, I thought that the boldness of the leader to give this particular policy a thought and action is something that needs to be applauded, irrespective of the challenges that comes, because life will always throw challenges at us. For instance, at the time that project, he made a promise, and then 8 months into his government, only 8 months, he started this process. It was not as if everything was perfect, but again, we always have to start. It's like wanting to learn how to swim. I'm yet to see anybody anywhere in the world who has been taught how to swim on the blackboard. Swimming, you need to step into the water to learn how to swim. And so if you fear stepping into the water, no swimming lessons can be given to you on the blackboard. You have to experience it. And so it's a matter of, going in there, knowing that you're going to have a certain, shot up in enrollment, and then over time, you overcome this. So that is why they even came up with this double track system, where some students go to school. By the time they are vacating, instead of the school blocks laying fallow and doing nothing, another group of students also come in. And so you have a 360, kind of system where, and as I speak to you, most of the schools have been expanded. So your concern is now being, dealt with.
Yeah.
With some of the schools now expanded and taking in more people, they have decent place to sleep. But from the beginning, it was a challenge. But currently, as we speak, I mean, a lot of schools, and we're very fortunate to have a minister of education who himself owns schools here in the United States of America, in California. So he brought a certain experience into the space, even the architecture of our school buildings, the need for us to have buildings fit and fit for purpose, to allow our children to learn in spaces that are very clean and very attractive. Okay. Of course, all has not been done, but I'm very confident that successive governments are going to do, continue the trajectory. Yes. Exactly. And I don't think that any government comes in to fail. I mean, every president will come to say, look, I want to do this. Sometimes the challenges are enormous and they become overwhelmed, but that is why you're a leader. You need to have that emotional intelligence. You need to be very bold and composed and to be able to deal with challenges as they confront you. I mean, the world will keep throwing challenges at us. We will have circumstances, situations that we have no control, but we still have to, paddle on.
As my brothers and sisters across our two borders, the Nigerians will say, problem no they finish.
Problem, of course, that is a deep one. We talk about that as like jokes, but problem never they finish.
Problem no they finish, my brother. So
problem never go finish, my sister.
Let's come to the tail end of this beautiful conversation. We've talked about a whole host of things, from the environmental climate change to its impact of our young people to health, death, and almost everything in between. So, given the platform, say if the world gave you a global platform today, what would your 2-minute message to world leaders be about climate change and justice?
Yeah, I think that, thank you very much for this opportunity. I would like to call on all humankind, that our lives are threatened, by the devastating effects of climate change and global warming. It's a collective battle. Climate change is no respecter of persons. Our very future is endangered, and together we can always win the battle. I mean, we humans have proven beyond doubt that it does not matter what comes. When we stand together, we are able to overcome. I mean, we just overcame COVID a few years ago. It seemed like the world was going to grind to a halt. But the great thing placed in us as humans saw us rise to the occasion. Our scientists did their best. Every individual somehow contributed because people respected rules. People did what they were not, they did not do what they were not supposed to do. Hand washing became a norm and up to date. Something that we were not used to, washing our hands every day, has become, like an everyday thing. And so we as humans have the capacity to overcome whatever challenges confronts us. Let's work together as a unit, and we will create a very beautiful world. Let love lead. Let us love ourselves. Once we love ourselves, we would naturally love the environment, because the environment is here to make our lives better and to make us, enjoy the space that we've been blessed with. Let us work together, ensure that our children and our children's children are given a world that they'll be proud of, to turn back and say, we thank our forebears for leaving us with this beautiful, what do you call it, gift.
World.
So
Yes.
that is my simple message. Together we can. Let us stand shoulder to shoulder in a peaceful, healthy, climate friendly environment through our actions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. As they say, when the last tree dies, the last
The last man
person,
dies. and
no,
and
the
that and
last
that reminds me
person
of
dies.
that
Yes.
that, that reminds me of a friend, a very good friend of mine. We went for a program, and then when they put the TV cameras on her, you know, she was like, when the last man dies, the last tree dies. She turned it around because she was under pressure. So pressure is not a good thing. Let's
Oh,
always, you know,
when the
let's
last man dies,
always,
the last tree dies. Okay.
yeah,
Instead of when
you
the
know,
last tree dies,
that's
the
due to
last
pressure.
man
So
dies.
let's always,
Yes.
do things, in a very relaxed atmosphere. Life is good, and
Mhm.
I wish our viewers and listeners all the best, and I wish your good self all the best. You're doing a fantastic job. I've been following on this podcast, watching video after video. It's amazing, and I thank God, that day our paths crossed in the Amsterdam airport when we're all transiting to Ghana. I mean, we've been able to do beautiful things together to help humanity.
Yes.
And I think that, we should keep going. Thank you so
I,
very much for the opportunity.
You are most welcome. You are most welcome. Thank you,
Thank you.
Nana Yaw,
Thank you.
for showing us what visionary leadership looks like in action. The Green Republic isn't just an idea, it is a call to all of us to reimagine our relationship with the earth. So let's keep the conversation going, and more importantly, keep planting trees, both literally and metaphorically speaking. And so, speaking as well, let's keep those in the areas where there is war and or famine in mind, is that all our peace, love, and unity goes to them, that may they come out, relatively unscathed. And if they do, when they do come out, we also lend our support, whether it's on the continent of Africa or it's in the Middle East or any part of the world. For even though we are children of Mother Africa, we are also dispersed all over the world. Nanaya, thank you for being
Absolutely.
a true leader. From when I met you with youth icons till present, Green Republic, you keep doing it. You are an inspiration to myself. And if I'm to tell my story, your name is somewhere in that corner. Unfailingly, it is not going
I'm blessed.
anywhere.
I'm blessed.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Pleasure. 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 Thank you so very much
You're
for
most
having me.
welcome.
God bless you.